Today we're gonna actually go a little bit off script from our normal state of the company, and we're gonna have two main focuses, if that's the plural of focus. I teach a class on the fact that we pluralize that word, and it wasn't intended to be pluralized. So there I go. But we have two main events today for our state of the company. And actually, they're tied incredibly well together, whether they may seem that way or not. We're gonna talk about giving, because this is a week of Red Day, and all of our offices and our culture committees and lots of agents have been doing some heavy lifting in preparation for Red Day. It looks a little bit different perhaps this year than it's looked in the past, but there will be plenty of giving and time spent in our communities nonetheless. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we've actually asked a good friend and one of our best agents in our network to come and talk to us on a topic that actually we don't talk enough about. And it's about wealth building. We said at the beginning of the year that we were going to have more and more conversations around how to build wealth through real estate. Rob Levy in our Portland office, Barnes Road office, has done that over his career, and actually has taught and goes out and teaches real estate agents all over the country on how to build wealth through real estate strategically. And so we've asked him to spend some time with our network. Personally, sharing some of his strategies and thoughts around building wealth through real estate as real estate agents. Before we do that, guys, I wanted to share something. I spent some time this week, and I've had this conversation with a few of you already, but it's a good reminder. I had the opportunity to spend some time this week at the T3 Summit, which is the summit that Stefan Swanepoel puts out. Many of us know Stefan Swanepoel if we're readers or researchers about our industry. He's probably the most well-known researcher, right? Third party, is not attached to any brokerage, has no affiliation with KW or Reology or Remax or right any other company. So it allows him to really bring good perspective to us as people within the industry, regardless of what brand we're part of or what company we work from or work with. And he actually put together a session this past week. He does it every year. It invites a lot of executives from across the industry, from all brands to come together. We broke out. We had sort of collaboration time, but also listening to the perspective of CEOs across all brands. Carl was there representing KW for the first time. Rich Barton was there from Zillow, Redfin, Compass, you name it, they were there. And I wanted to share some perspective that I gained around the market in general. We have a lot of conversation around where is the market, where is it going, what should we be worried about. We've begun to hear some signs of buyers saying, gosh, this is a bubble, some signs of sellers perhaps getting to the market or rushing to the market to take advantage of that bubble. Some buyers getting into contract and tapping out because they've been told they bought in a bubble. Like there's that conversation again. And that happens anytime we see a sharp run up in value. This is a completely new run up in value for us and market that probably none of us have been in a market quite like this. And sometimes we begin to think economically something is wrong or economically something may happen. And the perspective of some of the key economists that have studied our industry for years was actually perspective shifting. And I just wanted to share that. So Stefan brought in some economists and here's what they said. They said that we often study economics, right? We study the economy to get an idea of what's going to happen in the future of the real estate market. But they said this time there are no economic determiners that are going to tell us what is going to happen or why things are happening. More so, they said this time, we believe we should be studying demographics, socioeconomics, and behavioral economics. And they said what's going on right now is most Americans have spent 9 more hours a day in their house than they typically were spending, right? So on average, when you look at how many hours do we spend in our home, right? Whether it's a home that we own, a home that we rent, right? A home that we're sharing, like we are spending 9 more hours a day in our home. And actually that has caused people to rethink a lot about home, a lot about space. It's made us frustrated with our home, perhaps. It's made us frustrated with spaces, perhaps. Some actually, and this is the story we hear a lot of, gosh, we need more space, like I need a home office. But others feel very differently. Other people on the other side of that demographic or even socioeconomic situation look around and say, why do I need all this space? And so we have almost every American taking a step back and saying, how do I use my home? Why should I use my home this way? And you know, Rich Barton used an expression. He used it maybe about 18, 19 months ago. He said, we are in the midst of the great reshuffling. I think that's a good expression, guys. We're in the midst of the great reshuffling. Someone else said it's the reordering and rethinking of society. So they've gone out and done some studies, and they found that about 14 million households are waiting on the sidelines. I'm going to say that again. 14 million households are waiting on the sidelines. They've reevaluated where they live, why they live there, how they live there, and they're asking themselves if they are living their most optimized life in the space that they are in. But see, those changes don't happen immediately. Those changes don't happen immediately. Like they are in their home, they're making decisions, but there are 14 million households waiting on the sidelines. And so he said that the reshuffling is going to be the trend of the decade, which gives us a bit of a safety net, doesn't it? It gives us a sense of job security, doesn't it? Because this trend, this movement from one space to another will continue over the next decade. So on average, right, we sell 5.5 million homes a year, anywhere from 5.5 million homes a year, right? That provides about 10 to 11 million sides for us to go out and get. What's interesting is we're on pace right now to sell about 6.6 million homes. That's 1 million more homes than we normally sell. And he said that isn't beginning to scratch the surface of the 14 million people sitting on the sidelines. So over the next decade, as those 14 million people get off the sidelines and step into the field, we will be there to help them. Right? That means that over the next decade, probably our 5.5 million home sales a year will go to 6.5, 7 million home sales a year. Now, what's interesting, another number that I found fascinating was there are 115 million single-family homes in the country. 115 million single-family homes. That doesn't take into consideration condominiums and high-rises and apartments, but 115 homes that could trade. And we're only moving 5 to 5.5 million of them a year. Why? Because they're illiquid, because there's friction in that process. And a lot of technology companies say, why? Like, man, wow, we just need to eliminate some of that friction. And many of our past clients or buyers or sellers are choosing a less friction, right? A frictionless or less path with less friction. We have to provide that, guys. You will see our company and our offices rolling out initiatives to eliminate friction in that process. But we as the operator of the business, as the controller of the consumer's relationship, need to do the same thing. And by doing that, we will make it easier for people. Now, as they went out into that 14 million household pool, they said this. They said that the majority of them said that they will begin to make a decision around moving once they are, quote, 70%, right? When I say the majority, it was 70% of people said they will be mostly or completely comfortable to make a move once vaccines are widely distributed. Now, this is not a vaccine conversation, right? We're not polling who got one and who didn't, but 70% of people have said they will be mostly or completely comfortable to make a move once those are distributed. So the fact is, there's a still large chunk of people that have gone through this rethinking in the 9-hour day, sitting in their home, deciding what to do, and they have not made a decision, but they will be comfortable very, very soon to make that decision. So if you think that this is a bubble and we're going to see massive demand just dry up or go away, you are wrong. Like, we are in this for a while, and that is because our country has gone through a demographic shift, a socioeconomic shift, a behavioral economic shift. Like, it's not an economic conversation only anymore. It's a human being lifestyle and decision-making conversation. And I'm just glad that we are all here. There's no better industry to be in. Is it hard? Yeah, but that's reality, right? It's always been hard. It's just been hard in different ways. So yes, our jobs are hard, and for some of us, they're harder today than they've ever been. But we are in an industry on the tip of a breakthrough of helping people build wealth, save money, right? We're going to talk about that in just a minute, but also on a path of decision making that is instrumental, and our role in that will not go away during this great reshuffling. All right, Leslie, that's what I got.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Chris. And yes, you are right. We are pivoting today, taking another approach to our state of the industry. Typically at this point, we do local stats. And after reviewing the local stats, we decided that there was actually a bigger conversation on the table. And actually, I just felt like a broken record. So if you haven't caught it in the past, inventory levels are low, fed by insatiable buyer need, prices are up, and days on market are down. And there you go. That is your local market stat update. So we're going to focus on how we can give back to our local communities. So we're going to have a special presentation right now and welcome our team leaders from across the network to the call. And as you guys all know, this is Red Day week. So what are we doing out in our communities? So I'm going to welcome to share with us a little bit about Red Day, starting off with our team leader, CEO, Miss Katie Hardman from Keller Williams Realty Professionals in West Portland. Katie, lead us off today.
Yeah, thank you. I think tomorrow, May in general, and tomorrow being Red Day, is our biggest culture event as a company of the year. It's because at the heart of Keller Williams, culture is our shared commitment to community service. The immeasurable generosity of our team enables us to care for our own as our neighbors, no matter the magnitude, and our neighbors, no matter the magnitude of what is needed. So tomorrow, Red Day actually doesn't mean red. It stands for Renew, Energize, and Donate. It's a collective service initiative where Keller Williams Associates donate a day to give where you live. If you've ever worn a Red Day shirt, it probably says give where you live on the back of your shirt. Giving back to our communities gives credence to our company mission. And our mission as a company is to build careers worth having, businesses worth owning, lives worth living, experiences worth giving, and legacies worth living, or legacies worth leaving. And feeds our most notable motives, reminding every member of our team why we do what we do. Since May of 2009, our entire company, from the US and Canada to our family abroad, sets aside the second Thursday of the month to renew, energize, and donate within our communities we serve. And we have over 200,000 KW associates worldwide. And so you think about, if everyone in Keller Williams is giving where they live tomorrow, we're projected to give close to 1 million hours of service to our communities in one day. If you're on Instagram and you follow the hashtag KW Red Day, you'll likely see service projects like building new homes, gathering and distributing food to those in need, organizing relief efforts for natural disasters, or just spreading joy and raising funds in only the way that KW can. So locally, we are also making a huge impact. Each of our 5 offices in Oregon are giving to our local communities. So we wanted to share the impact that you are making tomorrow. And so I get the privilege to sharing what KWRP is doing tomorrow. And we're partnering with a company called Impact Northwest. And this company, or this organization, is focused on preventing homelessness by partnering with people as they navigate their journey to stability and opportunity. And as of this morning, we've raised $16,103 in donations, which it takes $1,200 to stabilize a family of 4 for a month. So we've raised enough money to help 13 families or 52 people move out of homelessness. We've also collected household supplies, and we'll be painting a mural at their facility tomorrow. So if you're with KWRP, I'm wearing my Red Day shirt today, but I promise I'll wash it to see you guys tomorrow. So know that this will be clean. But I want to give a special shout out to our ALC committee. So Kate, Willie, and Angela Stevens have headed up this project this year, and they've done a really great job in making an impact on KWRP so that we can make an impact on our community. So huge shout out to them. And if you are in the Portland area, it's not too late to participate in our Red Day. I'm gonna shoot the links to our projects in the chat so that you can check out more information, but we're excited.
Awesome, Katie. Wow, over $16,000 and Red Day hasn't even happened yet. Congratulations, KWRP. What an awesome, awesome impact. All right, now we are going to head down the I-5 corridor and welcome Ms. Sarah Noel Carpenter from Capital City. Tell us what you guys are doing in your local community.
Thank you. Thank you. If you are on the call from KWCC, go ahead in the chat and tell me that you're joining me tomorrow. We have an amazing group of agents that are going to start early in the day over at McKay High School Park. Getting a little dirty, getting things clean. We will enjoy an awesome lunch back at the office, and then we're opening up our food drive to the community, serving the Miriam Pope Food Share. And if you are unable to show up and drop off your items, I will shortly drop a link in the chat, and we can always have you folks donate online. A lot of people went into making tomorrow special. Big shout out to Sandy Gray, ALC member, who led the charge, and her culture committee. Big prominent members of the committee, Kim Keene, Michelle Hartzell, and of course our executive leadership team that put their all into making this possible. Big shout out to Emma Claire and Heath Mauger. We are so excited to get dirty with y'all tomorrow.
I love it. All right, let's keep heading down that corridor. And Alan Ercolini from Eugene, tell us what you guys got going on locally.
Hello, everybody from Eugene. So we're really excited to bring you guys a really great Red Day. Terry DeBose and her team has really done an amazing job of pulling together Red Day for us. We'll be working towards pulling together 100 spring baskets for the Eugene Mission. The Eugene Mission's been around since 1990. And, you know, COVID has really affected their work this year as well. They've had to pivot and make some changes how they normally run the program. And Terry has really worked with them to help accommodate their needs today related to COVID. So I'm looking forward to a great Red Day. Our market center is going to be there participating with Terry. And if you can't participate, you can still participate with Venmo. So you can go to @Teresa, THERESA/DeBose, DIBOS. It's listed there in the flyer. If you have more questions, put in the chat and we'll make sure you have the information to participate. So again, thank you, Terry, for all your work.
Love it. All right, we're going to keep rocking all the way down to our Southern family members. Our team leader, Kaylee Imus, tell us what's happening in Medford. Oh, you're on mute.
Hey, everyone. Good to see you on here. Hey, this year, KWSO is helping Hope Village. This is an organization that is dear to the hearts of our ALC brokers and community. In conjunction with Rogue Retreat, St. Vincent de Paul, and Jackson County Homeless Task Force, Hope Village provides transitional support housing programs for homeless men, women, and couples in the community. Our ALC, Jordan Anderson, Danielle West, Carly Kruger, Lori Patch, and Nate Sanford have worked tirelessly to ensure that we are able to help where needed. We will be spending the day tomorrow at one of their facilities, building garden boxes for fresh fruit and vegetables, building horseshoe pits, and doing some general landscaping, allowing the residents to enjoy activities and participate in programs that will provide for its occupants. So far, we've raised over $1,000 to support our community. And if you haven't had a chance to donate, I have included a link for the GoFundMe in the chat box, as well as my email and Hope Village's links for more information.
I love it. Okay, we are going to circle back to Portland Metro and give an official Xperience Brokerage Network welcome to our newest member of the executive leadership team, our new team leader, longtime KW family member, and new team leader, Jake Norman. Tell us what is happening at Sunset Corridor.
Awesome. I appreciate the opportunity. I mean, Red Day for me, I've been Keller Williams for 7 years. I remember showing up at Mega Camp when we pivoted to help with Hurricane Harvey, participated personally in several. So I think it's an amazing demonstration of culture for our company. But before I share, well, I want to go ahead and share, and then I want to give some props because I have really had to lean on our team. So our team and family at KW Sunset Corridor has created and collected 500 cards to deliver and distribute to a variety of nursing homes that care for elderly and residents in our areas. It's very meaningful to me because I actually have a grandmother that spent the last year and a half in a nursing home, not able to hug her or my dad or any of our loved ones. So it was really awesome to see the love. You can see some cards there that have been created and collected. They will be delivered tomorrow. We have several delivery drivers going out, and just to spread joy, share the love. And we'll be gathering in both in person and, for those who aren't comfortable with that yet, on Zoom as well. So just to celebrate what we've done together.
Awesome, you guys. Thank you to all of our team leaders. Oh, Jake, do you have one more?
Yes, I do want to go ahead and give props. Heather Wright has helped lead the charge on this. I've had to lean heavily on the ALC, our executive leadership team. As you guys, some of you know, I'm still in Colorado making my transition. So our team has been fantastic, and I am so grateful. To me, that's just another demonstration of the culture we have.
Awesome. Jake, we're excited to have you here in Oregon and welcome your family. Thank you to all of our team leaders. Thank you to all of the ALC that put so much heart and passion into our Red Day experience. We're excited to see you in the field tomorrow. Let's paint our communities red. Let's blow it up on social media. We're excited to see those red shirts. Thank you guys for joining us today. Okay, now for no more further ado, we are going to welcome to the call our special speaker of the day. Chris opened up this conversation saying we were going to pivot. We had two topics today that seem very different, but honestly fit beautifully together. What we say is money is good for the good that money can do. And we have to think $1 million first. We have to earn $1 million next. We have to net $1 million next. And then we have the right to give $1 million away. So the man that is going to help walk us through the opportunities available to realtors and how we can build our wealth through real estate investment. Rob Levy, are you with us on the call?
Yes, I am.
All right. And let me see, I cannot quite see you yet. Do you have just pop your video on and I think you'll come on the main screen.
It says that the host has stopped it.
Oh no, hold on just a second. Hold on, Rob. I am sorry.
It's okay. I was bending over typing.
We're going to fix this.
Imagining you didn't want to see the top of my head while I was typing.
You give me a second here and we'll get you fixed. All right. You should be able to pop it on now, Rob. There you are.
We're good.
Rob, I'm going to stay on the line. I'm going to help you monitor that chat box. If you guys do have any questions as he's going through this, please go ahead and raise your hand or pop something in the chat box. Rob, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you take it from here. Sound good?
All right, let me click on the share screen thing. That one. And gotta hide this so I can run it. There we go. Okay, can you guys see my slide? The first one that should be white, would we take great care of our clients?
We can see it.
All right, so off we go. So just a couple of things first. What I want to talk about is that we're taking great care of our clients as top realtors that are on this call, but my experience in my business is that we don't take such great care of ourselves. A couple of things right at the beginning here. First off, I'm sitting on my kitchen island, like a lot of you working from home. The art behind me is because I'm married to a woman that owns an art gallery, resaleart.com. So our whole house looks like that, which is wonderful. But so I've been at this for 32 years. As a matter of fact, that's longer than Katie, our team leader, has even been alive, and she's married with kids. So that shows how old I am. And along the way, I've kind of watched a lot of things. When I got in the business, there were about 1,400 realtors in Portland. I know it peaked at about 9,600. Then it dropped to about 4,600 during the recession, and now we're up around 10,000 again. There's a lot of realtors out there, and we all take wonderfully good care of our clients. What we're not doing, in my opinion, is taking really good care of ourselves. And this is what I want to talk about today. So without further ado, I'm going to roll on here. So what I'm talking about is investing in properties and in yourself. It gives you massive clout with working with your clients. So first off, I've given this speech a couple of times to groups of realtors, and what I ask people in a room where we're all sitting there is, hey, raise your hand if you work with investors, and only about a third of the agents raise their hands. And my thing is, hey, if I'm coming down to, say, Springfield, and I want to buy a rental property, and I call every realtor in town should say, yeah, I can help you. So yeah, we all work with investors, especially if we're selling small single family or less than 4-unit properties. There's lots of reasons that it's wonderful to work with investors. First off, they're really good. It's not on the sheet here, but they're really good during the down times because that's what keeps you alive. People with money are buying rental properties. But it's not emotional. You know, they don't like the color of this paint and stuff like that. I don't care about that sort of stuff. All they really care about is, does it pencil out? Would I be able to do a 1031 exchange to get out of it? And also, this is a teaser, the next line, can I buy it inside an IRA or 401k? We're going to talk heavily about that later. So my question again would be, who works with investors? And the answer is everybody works with investors. And you really need to brush up on this sort of stuff because I think we're going to see a lot more of it coming up. Little caveat, I'm not a CPA, I'm not a lawyer. I don't pretend to be a CPA. I actually look at people when I'm talking to them rather than my shoes. So I would strongly suggest that you talk to a tax professional or CPA before you do any of this stuff. And don't be surprised if some of what I'm talking about your CPA doesn't even know about, and that's an indication to switch to another CPA. So first off, I wonder how many of you are familiar with the realtor rule, and that's kind of a slang that's used, and I've got the publication here, but what it is the Internal Revenue Code, IRC 469 rule. What it says is that any of us that spend at least 750 hours in the business in a year, a lot of us are doing that in a week right now, but any of us that spend at least 750 hours in the business a year, and of course that applies to contractors and stuff too, and work 5% or more of their time in real estate, the $25,000 loss exemption doesn't apply. So in real terms, what that means is, if I wrote it in here, Mary rakes $200,000 as a realtor, but lost $50,000 on her rentals. Now she has an adjusted gross income of $150,000. So clearly she's paying lower taxes. Now you've got to materially participate. There's several rules involved, but it's all pretty easy to do. The key here is that we as a realtors can do things that our clients that we sell investment properties to can't do. We can take losses against earned income on real estate. So what does that mean in real life? Well, what it means is that if you've got that little house that you've got a 30-year mortgage and you do a refinance to a 15 or a 10-year mortgage, which I strongly recommend while the rates are low, and all of a sudden you're losing $100 a month or $200 a month or $500 a month on that house, that comes off the top of your earned income. So in essence, the government, or other taxpayers, I guess, are helping you pay off that mortgage early. That's extremely important. Again, confirm this with your CPA. If they don't know about it, I'd go to a CPA that understands and works with lots of realtors. The guy I work with in Portland, I think he's got 350 realtors he works with. And I think you'll find that very helpful. This rule's been around a long time, and there's the publication numbers if you want to jot them down. So very briefly, 1031 exchange, because I hit on it. Obviously, for those that aren't familiar with that, if I own a rental property and I buy it for $100,000, yeah, good luck, Rob, finding one for that. But I bought it for $100,000 and today it's worth $200,000 and I sell it, I have a capital gains tax. And I've made that very simple because there's acquisition costs, disposition costs, any improvements that I made, if I added a deck or something like that, that all comes off the top line. But roughly speaking, we made $100,000 on that property. If I sell that, that's a capital gains tax. Right now, it's 15 or 20% on the feds. You guys have probably watched the news. They've talked about raising that to as high as 39%. Plus, the state of Oregon is going to take their chunk, which I just totally forgot what it was. I think it's 10.3%, but it's either 9.9 or 10.3, and as high as 13%. That's a lot of taxes. I was actually watching the other day Janet Yellen on one of the morning news shows on the Sunday show, and she called capital gains taxes rewards. I don't quite see these as rewards. The way I see it is we make money as a realtor, we stash the money away, and instead of going away on vacation, we buy a rental property. We go through some rough years of the rental property when tenants leave and things get trashed and stuff like that, and then we make money at it, and they're calling that rewards. I see that as earning. But nonetheless, you have to pay tax on it unless you do a 1031 exchange. And on the 1031 exchange, if I've got that $200,000 property I'm selling, and I'm buying one for $400,000 and I have $100,000 in debt on that, I have to carry that $100,000 debt through. But I can spread it out to multiple properties. Like Beverly, my wife and I, we just recently sold 3 in Portland and bought 6 more. So that's something you can do. You can actually buy as many as 3 from each sale. You must carry the debt through. So in one case, we had to put a $75,000 loan, actually on 3 of them, we had to put $75,000 loans on them, which is actually kind of hard to do because it's not much dollar amount. Anyway, as far as checking that stuff out, IPX1031.com is probably the best site to check out to really learn. IPX is owned by Fidelity, which of course owns several other title companies, and there's tons of information there. Toya Butler, B-E-U-T-L-E-R, Butler Exchange Group is who I personally use. She used to run IPX 1031, and she's phenomenal. She has an office in Lake Oswego. It's pretty much $750 aside for doing that. But here's what I really wanted to talk about. Self-directed IRAs. Now, most of you have a retirement account, and it could be through Charles Schwab or Prudential or whatever, right? So you've got a retirement account and your CPA says, hey, can you fund your retirement account this year? And it'll lower your taxes, which is true. On a regular retirement account, you put in $50,000, it lowers your taxes because now you're only being taxed on $50,000 less, so it lowers the amount. But what a lot of people and a lot of CPAs don't realize is that let me back up a step. That retirement account is being managed by somebody. And I've got a couple with Prudential and one with Schwab. And I've got managers that manage which funds this goes into and everything else. And it's all great. I mean, it's been a wonderful last 8 or 9 years in that. So I have no complaints about that. And I'm a big believer in diversifying. However, what I'm suggesting is you take some of your retirement account and you roll it into, which means tax-free, a self-directed retirement account. Now, if you're lucky enough to have a Roth, there's a term, real estate Roth millionaire, and there's a reason for that, and this is it. Because on a Roth, you put the money in and you don't get a tax break, but when you make money, you don't pay taxes. So what you can do with a self-directed retirement account is you roll the money from, let's say, Charles Schwab into the Entrust Group, which is who I use. There's several of them out there, and the money sits there. But the difference is, instead of some guy in an ivory tower in Newark, New Jersey, directing where all your money's going, you're in charge of where your money's going. Now, who knows real estate better than you? Nobody. And by the way, does it have to be local? No. I've got rentals in Indianapolis, Indiana, Palm Springs, California, all over the place. So you take that money and you can see there's some benefits here. Number one is that you can buy real estate with it. And on the top second line there, it says you can buy as a partner with yourself. Hey, Rob, I don't have enough money to buy a house in my retirement account. Well, you can actually partner with yourself. So Rob Levy's retirement account can partner with Rob Levy or any one of you guys and buy a place together. Rob, I don't really have enough money to buy a place. Well, you can get a non-recourse loan. Now, I need to correct that because I found out they just changed it to 60%. But you can get what's called a non-recourse loan. So I can put down $100,000 on a property out of my retirement account, keeping some money in there for other things. And then I can borrow a loan up to 60% loan to value to buy a property, and it's non-recourse. That means that the lender that does what's called an IRA loan can only take the house back if you stop making payments. They can't go after you personally. They can't attach any of your other funds or anything else. So what can you do within this self-directed account? Well, you can buy houses, you can fix and flip. There's a couple of people I saw on this call that I know do fixes and flips. You buy something for 100, you put 100 in it, you sell it for 300 to make it simple math, right? That's $100,000 in profits. All those profits go back into the retirement account, tax-free if it's a Roth, or tax-deferred if it's a regular account. Now, we were late, my wife and I were all too busy, right? We just got our taxes in and filed an extension. But I've got a bunch of properties that are owned by my retirement accounts. I don't even have to turn those into my accountant. He doesn't care. It's all happening inside the retirement account. So again, let me reiterate here the next line. Roth IRA, no taxes on profits. If I only did one house in my lifetime and I spend $100,000 on it from my retirement account, put $100,000 in from my retirement account, and sold it for $300,000, I have a $100,000 gain. I don't pay any tax now, but we all know that when I take the money out later, I do pay taxes. With a Roth, that's not the case. You're never taxed on those profits. So for those of you that don't have a Roth and can get one now, go ahead and do it. For those of you that make too much money, it's kind of the same boat that I'm in. I can't get a Roth. What if you had a stellar year? There's a few agents on this call that I know are going to have like $800,000, $900,000 or more GCI years. Well, talk to your accountant about opening up what's called a defined benefit program. That's where you're committing to put a certain amount of money in every year, which you can cancel after 1 year. I believe the limit is $240,000. My wife and I did that for several years where we each put in $240,000. We're having some amazing years. And that just goes into the retirement account, which of course brings down your taxes. Or if it's a Roth, obviously you do pay taxes, but it's tax-free. So where do you learn about this? The group that kind of invented it all is called the Entrust Group, and the website's there. It's theentrustgroup.com, and they're in Oakland, California. Email me if anybody wants to open an account. I can get you a $50 off the thing. But the guy that started that, his name is Hugh Broma. Hubert is the actual proper spelling. And he wrote a book, which I'll show you in another page here, on how to invest in real estate and pay little or no taxes. Guys, this has been around since 1974. And I'd strongly suggest getting that book, and we'll talk about that in a second. So how does this work? So you've rolled the money out of your Schwab account into the Entrust Group, and you've set up an IRA or SEP or whatever it is, and all the money's sitting in there. What happens then is you have to go and open up an LLC. I think we're all in Oregon here. So you open up an LLC with the state of Oregon, which is a $100 fee every year. And now I've got an LLC, and you can name it whatever you want, but I'm not the owner. The IRA is the owner. So it would be like, you know, Eugene Properties LLC, and it's owned by, you know, Rob Levy, the Entrust Group, FBO, which stands for benefit of Robert Levy, and then the account number. That's how that's set up. So now you've got money in the retirement account, and you've got an LLC, which is owned by the retirement account. Now you go to the bank where you do all your banking, and you say, I want to set up a checking account for the LLC. So now the LLC, you take in all your LLC documentation, your IRA documentation, and the bank will set up a checking account, which is owned by the LLC, which is owned by your IRA. I know it sounds a little complicated, but that's all there is to it. Now you've got this checking account, and let's say you moved $500,000 in there. You literally have a checking account as part of your retirement account that you can write a check and go and pay cash for a house if you want. So that's the beauty of all of this. Now there's a lot of negatives here. Number one, no self-dealing. So you can't go ahead and buy a house a mile away from you and rent it to your kids, your in-laws, your step-parents, whatever the case. No vertical dealing. The IRA must pay for repairs. So make sure that you've got enough money in your LLC to pay for repairs. I bought a duplex out in Canby about 2 years ago. And like 2 days later after it closed, there was a big windstorm and it blew the roof off it. So $20,000 for a new roof to go in. I wouldn't be able to write a personal check for that. I had to write it from the LLC. You can remove it from the IRA for 60 days. I'll leave that one out of here. That would be like if you bought a condo in Maui and you can't stay there because of no self-dealing. What you can do is take it out of your IRA for 60 days, go and stay there, and then put it back in the IRA. That's complicated. I won't touch on that, but just know it can be done. Two main things here. You cannot manage your own properties. So even if you buy your neighbor's house, you can't manage it. By the way, what are the penalties if you get caught on this sort of stuff? The penalty is actually that the entire account that this comes from becomes due and taxable, the entire thing. And when you buy a property, you can't pay yourself a commission. So if you're buying a house where there's it's a 6% commission and you're getting, say, 3% to make it easy, it's $100,000 property, that's $3,000. Just offer 97 for the house instead. And you're not paying yourself a commission, but you're getting a discount. Again, check all this stuff with your CPA and make sure it's a CPA that understands this sort of stuff. And if they don't, you got the wrong CPA. I touched briefly on the IRA non-recourse loans. North American Savings Bank in Denver, if you just Google NASB IRA loans, I think it is. Again, I updated that to 40% down on this slide. I forgot about the other. Rob, what are the rates? You know, typically they're 0.75 to 1% over normal for investor loans. So today interest rates are what, like 3.25 or something like that. So an investor loan is like 3.75. So you're going to pay 4.5, maybe 4.45% for their loans. It's a little bit more, but the rate's so low, it just doesn't matter. Again, the IRA account holder, which is me in this case, is not personally liable for the loan. So if everything goes to hell in a handbasket, and we know it can because it has before, and you have to walk away from it, they're not going to come after you personally.
Hey, Rob, we've got a couple questions coming in. Do you want to address those at the end or as we go through each of the slides?
Yeah, let's take them at the end if we can.
Absolutely.
I've only got a couple more pages. Track of them. I'm trying to keep track of time. I'm in the kitchen, so I'm watching my stove clock. So the property is the sole source of the repayment, and the finance property must generate sufficient net operating income, which is rent minus operating expenses, to exceed the debt payments to 25%. That's the rule of thumb on them doing the loan. And again, I'm open to questions on this stuff afterwards. If we don't have time today, email me, happy to talk about it. My email is rob@roblevy.com, and that'll be on the last slide. The Bible on Self-Directed IRAs, as I mentioned, was written by Hugh Broma. I just saw this book for yesterday for $2 used on Amazon. I think everybody should buy it. Even if you're not going to do this stuff, it's something you can talk to your clients about. And even if you hand them to your clients, I buy them and I give them to my clients. I also buy some of the Dave Ramsey books, the Total Money Makeover. He has them on sale for $10. Like right now, it's actually, he's doing another sale. And I buy those and give them to some of my clients too. And, you know, sign it and say, please report back to me after you've read this, stuff like that. It goes a long way. So anyhow, I'd suggest you're getting that book. But also this book was written by North American Savings Bank. And they gave me a copy. It's a 272-page ebook, which you can read on your iPad or whatever. And they said I'm welcome to hand it out. So if anybody wants that, just email rob@roblevy.com and I'll send you a link to it. It's kind of the same thing as Hugh Broma's book. I will tell you it's nowhere near as good. So the last page, actually two last pages here, is number one, you need to be buying rentals. And why? Because the tenant pays the rent, because the tenant pays the mortgage effectively, because you're writing off the loan, because you're depreciating the building. For those of you that don't own rentals or haven't dealt with them, if you buy a property that's worth $300,000, to use a round number, and $100,000 of it is the land value, which means the building's worth $200,000, the IRS lets you take that $200,000, divide it by 27.5 years and depreciate it. So even though on paper it looks like you're actually losing money on a rental, oftentimes you're making money simply because of the depreciation. Excuse me again. It goes up in value. Yeah, I know, I've been through 4 recessions as a realtor. It doesn't always go up in value, but over time, we know it goes up 4.7% on average since the end of World War II. If you pay it off early, you can borrow for more rentals. So what I do is every time the rent goes up $100, I fire off another $100 a month mortgage payment to the mortgage company and get the thing paid off early. Pays for college for kids. That's what we did. We, in one case at least, we sold a duplex and paid for college for one of my kids. Buying kids' names. I know several people that are doing that. They have young children. They're buying the houses in their children's names. Okay, you can't afford it here. Go and buy something in Indianapolis. There's wonderful homes there. Lower middle class homes for $165,000. You can't do all this with stocks. So my point there is that, excuse me again, I'm sorry. Allergies are killing me right now. You can't do all this with stocks. I can't go into the bank and say, hey, I want to borrow $100,000 to buy a bunch of Intel stock. I know technically you can margin stocks and stuff like that, but I can't go in and say, give me 25, or excuse me, I'll put in 25, you kick in 75, and let's go buy this together. And even if you did have 100,000 in cash and you buy 100,000 bucks worth of Intel stock, I'm not suggesting you don't do it. I own Intel stock. Nobody's paying rent to use the stock. You're just hoping it's going to go up by a company that's run by somebody other than you. In this real estate company that we're talking about here, you're running it and you know what you're doing. So the biggest thing though is that it's for when you retire, this is huge. What a lot of people say is, I'm going to sell my rentals when I retire. But when you sell your rentals that are not inside a retirement account, when you retire, you've got to pay capital gains taxes on it. But one of the things you can do, let's say that this $300,000 house that you bought 5 years ago is worth, I don't know, $600,000 when you retire. And by then it's paid off. You can borrow money against that house, probably up to $400,000 easily, and you can live on that money tax-free. And under current tax laws, what will happen is you'll live on that money until you run out, you'll live on the next one until you run out, and then when you pass away, all of the values go up to the current value, the kids pay off the loan, and they inherit the houses with very little tax due. And that's the second beauty of it. So I wrote down the top 10 reasons to buy a rental. The first one is appreciation. They pretty much always go up. High leverage, again, I can put down $25,000 and buy a $100,000 house. There's a high return on income. Paying down the principal, we talked about every time you raise your rents, pay extra money on the mortgage. The tax benefits, we covered that, the depreciation mostly. It's a hedge against inflation. It's probably not on the horizon, but we're talking long-term here. I'm a long-term hold person. Increasing rents. So your rents, for the most part, go up every year. Yeah, there's people that don't pay. I've had a non-payer since last March, and it does happen. Luckily, I can afford to handle it with the rents from the other ones. Not quite sure what the other one says, but I believe it's retirement income. So we talked about that. Creative exits down the road. That was where you borrow money, like I talked about, against it. But the most important one is you're a realtor. You know where to buy in and you get a deal. So you can buy something before it hits the market and get 5 or 6% off right out of the gate. And the last thing I wanted to talk about, and this is the second to last slide, is what about your real estate business? So a few of my friends on here know that I had a heart problem a few years ago and I thought I was going to die. And I kind of woke up and thought, okay, I've watched people die. I'm old enough where people around me are dying. And what happens to my real estate business if I do die? Well, what I did is I reached out to a friend of mine who used to run the Star Power systems. I was one of Howard Brinton's stars that ended years ago, but her name is Amy Stair, and she's a specialist in selling real estate agents, businesses, and teams. And what she says is that your team or your individual agent business is worth anywhere from 0.5 to 1.5 of annualized gross income. And that's derived from an average of your gross income over the last 5 years. The calculations include adding and subtracting for geographic farming. If you live in your farm and it's all about you, that farm's probably worth less. If you don't live in your farm and it's not about you, it can be sold to somebody else without the business dropping, then it's worth more. Same for your online leads. If you're paying $3,000 a month for online leads and the new buyer is going to stop doing that, obviously you're going to lose a percentage of the business. But what that means in reality is a 500,000 GCI business could, term would be could, because it all depends on how good your records are and how good your systems are, could be worth $250,000 to $750,000 or more. I've seen them go for more than 2%. So a 200,000 GCI, at the very least, if it's run well, is worth $100,000. So that's pretty good money, you guys, that a lot of people aren't counting on getting. The keys there is, are all your clients in a database? Are you contacting them every 3 to 4 weeks, whether that be by phone or postcard, by mail, by text, whatever? But the key is having that consistent business that you can show over 3 to 5 years, then you've got something worth value. So that's kind of all of what I got. This is the most important slide of all of them right here. For those of you not in the greater Portland area, if you're looking for an agent, that would be me. And also for the last 9 years now, I've been selling homes in Palm Springs, California. As a matter of fact, I'm flying down there on Saturday night again with a client who wants to spend up to $1.3 million. And in case anybody's wondering, she needs to look at houses between 900 and 950, and she'll pay $1.3 million. That's how crazy second home markets are down there. So I'm open for questions as long as we've got time available. If not, just email me stuff, rob@roblevy.com.
Rob, you crushed that. We do have a few minutes left. If you have a few minutes to stay on the line, sure. I'm just going to start rattling them off if that sounds good. All right. So Shauna Rife said, what if you already have multiple rental properties and you want to set them up inside this kind of system? Is that possible? The answer, Shauna, is no. You can't take your existing rentals and put them inside a retirement account because that's called self-dealing. But going forward, it sounds like you're very familiar with rentals, and this is something you should look into. Happy to talk to you. Awesome. Of course, Ms. Karna Stark said, you know where to look in the country right now. So where are you buying right now for investment properties?
Great question, Karna. I'm buying in Indianapolis, Indiana. Some of my friends kind of got together. We all invest in real estate, a bunch of top agents from around the country. We get together twice a year in Las Vegas and sit and discuss different markets, along with having a great dinner and a little bit of gambling. But what we've narrowed it down to is Tucson, Arizona, which is getting tough because if you've read the articles on the graying of America, there's some concerns now about buying in these large communities like that, large retirement communities. Kansas City, Missouri, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, Indianapolis, Indiana. And I have a very good friend of mine, many of you know him, Dirk Zeller. He's a real estate trainer out of Bend. And Dirk owns, I think, 60 or 70 houses inside his retirement account. And he buys only in the deep south. And I asked him why. And he said, because I get houses on slabs with brick walls and nothing goes wrong with them. So there's that too. Some people like slumlord stuff. I don't. I like lower middle class. I realize I don't make as much money, but for me, it's just easier. And the stress is a big part of it.
I love it. Wow. And you guys, yes, we will be sharing the recording and the slides. So for those of you who missed that, don't worry, you can have a second chance. From Shannon Eilis, does this apply to short-term rentals as well, or just long-term?
Good question. Great question. Glad you mentioned it. Short-term rentals as well. We have a short-term vacation rental in Lincoln City. So I understand the short-term rental market, and I had a couple in Palm Springs, actually, Palm Desert. So yes, you can do that. The only difference would be is if it's inside the retirement account, you can't stay there.
Okay.
And you can't manage it.
Okay. Ted Tanner, can you talk about Delaware statutory trust LLCs? I've only heard about them, but it sounds like LLCs that act as a parent LLC in which you can have other LLCs for each of the properties you own.
Ted, I never finished high school. I can't help you there.
Okay, let me see. Did we get everything? Thank you. All right, you guys, I think I got all the other questions. Oh wait, Shauna, does the IRA have the ability to pay 25% down and finance the rest, or would your IRA do the down and personally pay the mortgage?
You can't personally pay the mortgage. The IRA, if you've got the money in your IRA, I believe in most cases now it's 40% down, not 25%. 25% would be for a non-IRA rental. A lot of banks are doing that now, or even less actually. But you can't, the key here is you can't commingle the funds. You can't have any involvement in it whatsoever. It's just an investment. So you can't touch it. And that would mean you can't make the payments out of your personal account. And if there's a problem with a kitchen faucet, a contractor has to go out and fix it, you can't do it, and you've got to pay the contractor from your LLC or your IRA.
Okay. All right. That was hard for all those control freaks out there, Rob. They can't touch it. They can't do it. Okay. Jesse Panaka, thank you. Just wondering who your CPA is, or do you have any great recommendations for financial planners, CPAs that can assist with this kind of information?
Yeah, so I'm in the Portland area. We've used Paul Kingsland for many years. We've actually been audited 4 times. 3 of them were a compliance audit where they took 20 realtors in Portland and Seattle, and they audited the 20 realtors to see how bad we all cheat, which is really interesting because they're coming after realtors. But the reality is Paul pretty much only works with realtors. He's a wonderful CPA. He's Paul Kingsland CPA. I will say that his communication skills are not great. It takes a few phone calls. That pisses a few people off. But he's very good, and I'll tell you what, he really stood up for us on these audits.
Okay, I think I got all of them, you guys. If I missed a question, please. Okay, Jolyn, what should you do if you don't have money in your account to cover the repairs?
So Jolyn, good question. Don't buy anything if you don't have enough money to cover it. But I'm assuming you've got money in other retirement accounts you can roll into this Entrust IRA. And so just make sure you've got more than enough to cover the repairs, or I wouldn't be doing it, or borrow money within the IRA on the IRA loan to buy the property in the first place. That way you've got more money left over in the account.
Okay, going once, you guys, for questions. I think I got them all. If I missed them, repost. Going twice. Okay, Rob, you knocked it out of the park today. Thank you so much for this information. Yes, I've had lots of personal messages and questions. Just as a recap, we will be sharing the video and the slides. So please stay tuned for the wrap-up email. We will also include Rob's contact information for any additional information that you might have. You can reach out to him directly. Please remember him for your referrals in the Portland metro area. You guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We are committed to helping you build your personal wealth and also committed to helping make an impact in our local communities. It all starts with you. We are blessed and proud to be in business with you guys. Thank you for joining and have a powerful day, you guys.